All right, finally, it's going. And my voice is not working so well. And it says I have 2 concurrent viewers the whole time. And now it's done something else with the video. I don't know. This new system is, they have programmers on staff, so they've got to keep them doing things. And they keep on thinking they're improving things, but maybe it improves it in some way, but then in other ways it slows it down and it's cumbersome. Anyway, I'm complaining. I'm an old man. I'm complaining about the fact that I've got this free service here. Well, hallelujah. Which I'm glad to say it's great to have. So let's, since there's nobody here, I'm just going to set up some stuff for if somebody does log in. Revelation 16, I think is what I want. Now, I don't always talk about the Bible and things because to T&O, these were the records. That's all they were. And what they said was that what they said was that the records, I see there's somebody here, and I'm trying to format my screen better. I've got a bad voice because I'm getting over a slight cold. Okay, I was thinking about something else for a second there. Sorry, but I do pay attention to the chat room, so if anybody wants to ask a question or because there's so much to actually talk about if you're somebody that's been on this broadcast before, then you know that. But if you're new, then you're not going to know that, of course. So I'll just go on with talking about some of the things that I jotted down in my notes here, which can keep me going for a while. But recently there was just a article that came out and said that there was a planned moon landing and Mars mission to a Mars monitoring mission to monitor earthquakes, is what they said in this article, and to defend the Earth from deadly asteroids. And so, to me, that's more evidence of what I've been saying for a long time, that the near-miss asteroids weren't unnoticed by the authorities. And they happened, like, there's been 3 or 4 of them, I think, since 1990s. And I think one was in the early 2000s, one was in 2013, and then 2017. And then there are asteroids in between that all the time. But these are the ones that came within the moon orbit to the Earth. So not quite halfway, I don't think. But that's, astronomical terms, that's considered to be like on the doorstep. And so the humans that are in charge of, that have the facilities, of course, to study that and think about plans for changing it, what looks like, might be an inevitable strike on the Earth by a large rock. And then they had the Kablinks meteor that came down and broke a whole bunch of windows and doors. It blew out like a door to a warehouse. It has one of those corrugated metal doors that comes down from the top. I saw somebody from the inside. There was a camera on this person walking by, and the door blew open, and he was sent flying, not being hit by the door, but by being hit by the shock wave that was with it. I don't know if he was actually being hit or he was jumping out of the way, I guess. No, but it wasn't. Well, maybe he was hit by the door, and I couldn't really tell that much. Anyway, I don't know for sure, but that happened in 2013, I believe. Wait, I'm getting my dates mixed up now. I forget what date it was that happened. Kablinks. But the next level's been doing more things gradually, but they've been escalating those things, especially since 1997 when the class left. And I think there was a buffer period where they weren't doing much before that, and then it, maybe 3 years or so, and then that's when, or maybe that's the woe that happened with the World Trade Center. Maybe that was the woe for that makes sense. Which is also talked about in Revelation 11 as the great shaking. And then it says the second woe is past. I think it's in that order. Gosh, since I'm saying that, I better look it up. Yeah, Revelation 11 and 13. Says, and the same hour was there a great shaking, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the shaking were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to God of heaven. Now, the remnant in this case are those that recognize that as something that caused them to recognize that this was an apocalyptic event. And that's the way I saw it. And I was living 30 miles from the World Trade Center. And so And that's what got me into writing. Excuse me. I'm getting over a cold, as I've said before. That's what got me into writing that event. and studying the politics and everything, because before that I wasn't studying politics or anything. I was just playing music and and living with my new family that um, well, actually, that's not true. I didn't have a new family then. I only started a new family in 1994, a human family. No, 95 actually. Anyway, enough about me. But okay, so I've gone through this verse before. I'm just going to go through it quickly. That the hour has to do with the period of time, which I think is approximately like a 40-year period of time. So it was saying that it was the same hour as when Tiendo came. That was like a block of time. So that kind of identifies this great shaking, which it says as earthquake, but the word is actually seismos. So it's a shaking, a commotion, a tempest, earthquake. And that's when somebody's a student of the prophecy of trying to understand them all the words and the context and everything, then they come to see, or at least I've come to see, that there's a number of ways of looking at everything, and they all are in their own way accurate, but can be accurate, not necessarily. I mean, they don't have to be accurate. There's certainly things that were translated poorly in these materials. But you see enough common ground with words that we use now, like seismic, so that you know that the way we identify. I mean, they measure the seismic impact when they blow up bombs, like all those nuclear bombs that they blew up to pollute the air and the water with. That caused a lot of cancers throughout the United States. And other problems with immune systems and stuff. And they're still spewing that radioactivity out every day by the hundreds. There's hundreds of nuclear power plants, maybe even thousands. And yet they want us to believe that carbon at 0.04 parts of the atmosphere, 0.04 parts, 4/10 of a percentage of the atmosphere, with nitrogen and oxygen being the bigger parts, is actually like serving like a blanket over the earth to make it warm. And anybody who wants to do an experiment, take a glass of water, put the hottest bulb you can get on it, and see it, and put a thermometer in the glass, and then put a thermometer also in front of the bulb. And then you can compare how much water to how much intensity of wattage or whatever it is to the temperature of the water, and see how much it changes, and see what it would take to get it to go up 1 degree. And that would be stagnant water. But the ocean's not like that. The ocean's mixing up. You've got layers and layers of colder water. So you'd have to do this with, but see what it's like just with room temperature water. I haven't tried this experiment yet. I'm going to do it though. I'm going to do it. I want to see what happens. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't mind being wrong. It doesn't benefit me to be right about this kind of thing. I just know that the next level is in control of the climate and the weather, and also in control of how much technology gets discovered. And I believe the next level is also in control of where spirits can go when they're dead and where humans can go and what humans can see. We're also controlled by that, by the next level. Because it's not beneficial for humans to see the spirit world. The spirits that are in that, the discarnates, the influences, that Tiendo calls them influences, because they influence humans to do all the things that humans do. Because that's what they did when they were living, and they want to repeat that. So I got distracted by another thought. That happens to me a lot. And sometimes I get back to the loose end that I created, or the loose ends I created. Sometimes I don't. And if you can, anytime somebody can help me with that, I always appreciate it, like in the chat room. But so I'll get back to, I want to get back to Revelation 11:14. Then it says, the second woe has passed. Behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Now, the third woe, I believe is talking, at this point, I believe is, well, I don't know. Because it seems to be a difference between, it's what the humans do is the woe, and what, maybe that's the way it works. I mean, the next level is doing it also, but they're doing it by showing it through the human kingdom response. Like the first woe, I believe, was like I had on my screen originally. Which I'll go back to and see if it goes over there. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. No, what am I doing? I was in the right place before. Excuse me again. But I had a different verse on the screen. Let's see, that'd be Revelation 9. Yeah, I'll just go to it with my own thing. And I'll come back to 11. And this has to do with the fifth angel sounding. Well, I really should put that on the screen, because that wouldn't be right. So let me put it on the screen and move it around so that it doesn't look, because I changed my resolution recently. Okay. That's my little Bible software, the first one I had. It's pretty good. It's called, I think it's still available. It's called Free Bible, the Free Bible. One word, Free Bible. But I mean, Strong's is good, but Strong's doesn't give you the overview format to where you can click on the meanings of the words. And this gives a little different, gives more references to the context, the way the words were used throughout the translation. So this one is, which I'm saying is the fifth angel sounding in Revelation 9:1. which is the title of my the whole event of the sounding and then the spacecraft falling, spacecrafts intentionally crashing, which is was his fall from. I wonder if you got that screen yet. Yeah, you do. Which is fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. In other words, to that crew that was coming, they were opening up access so that the space aliens could come out. Now, so before that, they were contained there somehow. Although I think they could still travel in soul form, because what they are is souls, and their souls are bodies, different kinds of bodies, which I compare to like the Cocoon movie beings that were in those big eggs, but not as bright. In fact, very dim compared to the individuals in that movie would be considered to be more of an advanced vehicle. But the way that Tiendo taught, the vehicles in the next level that are they're grown on a vine. They can be grown in different ways, but they mentioned grown on a vine as one of the ways. And so like plants have a different consistency than the matter it might be more plant-like. I don't actually know if they said exactly what the material was, but the soul body is like a plasma density and a physicality. So and so that might have been what, and they did say that the soul body was bigger than the vehicle. So those individuals in Cocoon might have been can be thought of as soul bodies. And the Cocoon then isn't really accurate, except to where it's like a spacecraft idea. Because being born in the human kingdom requires being in a human vehicle. So that's the Cocoon chrysalis that they were demonstrating by having it in the shape of an egg. So an egg is like a chrysalis for a new birth of a new vehicle. The Next Level designed all this, so they put the illustrations. Tienda said that they helped humans develop certain movies. They can give people things in dreams, like I think Telsa got. And other people. Or it can just be a revelation of something, a revealing of something. I mean, a recognition of something that makes sense. And so then the person tries to prove it using science or whatever, and they become what's called a scientist. Now, today's scientists are, that word is as good as priests are or reverends or gurus or spiritual adepts or yogis or rabbis or are, or rabbi teachers, I guess, and that goes. I'm just saying leaders of different spiritual and religious communities. So the scientist is the new religion. I mean, science is the God. And of course, science is whatever you make it, just like the religious God is anything people want to make it into. And so the priests are the ones and the practitioners that are practicing that religion to the best of their ability are the scientists that are observing reality and putting their interpretation on it and saying that everybody needs to believe on this because it's absolute truth, and therefore carbon is causing the end of the human species and the end of the planet as we know it, which is like, to anybody that's, well, it's funny the way this happened for me. I believed it at first. When I saw the movie Inconvenient Truth, and I saw it in a synagogue. I don't go to church or a synagogue or anything like that. But they just happened to be playing it in a synagogue in a town near where I lived in Vermont. And so I went to the showing, and it made sense to me. Okay, okay, this makes sense. And then, I don't know, it might have been weeks later, I was at a friend's house, and there were two gentlemen there that one of which I respected a great deal because I knew that he was very deep into physics and understood the concepts and everything, and could talk about it, and in terms that other people that are science physics people would recognize as being their equivalent. And so I was at his house in New Paltz, New York, and he had a friend over. And when I brought up this Inconvenient Truth thing, the friend said, "No, the Earth is much too large. It takes care of all that CO2." And I wasn't talking with any of them spiritually. Well, I did tell the physics guy that I had that UFO sighting at a different visit where I saw a big Z in the sky over Corpus Christi, Texas, over the Gulf of Mexico. And it was like 6 or 7 months after I joined with T&O. That I had that, and it was like streaking through the ground, through the air, big bright light, and didn't look that far away. And it did 2 right-angle turns that were, they were big. The top was a big top of the Z, and then a right angle turn, that was a big movement, and then a right angle turn that continued in the same direction. Yeah. Got confused there for a second. But greetings, Jeff. Your voice sounds strained. Yes, I hope it's because I'm just getting over a cold and I haven't been talking. So, but there's some other reason it's happening. Well, then we're gonna have to live with it. I'm gonna have to live with it, or maybe I can find some herbal thing to take. Anyway, so anyway, to get back to Revelation 9, I was trying to go towards showing where the woe was. So I'm just going to scroll down here and talks about, I wanted to talk about this anyway, actually, because it gets to the place where they're talking about the three, but I'm never going to get there if I don't do a lot of these broadcasts talking about this, and the way my voice is going. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to write them down and have someone else read it to do these. Revelation 9:12, it says, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more. So I was just bringing that up as an example because Revelation 11 says when the second woe ends, (11:14), and the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe come quickly. Now, I'm saying that I believe that the second woe is coming after the same hour that there was a great shaking, and a tenth part of the city fell, and the earthquake was slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were frightened and gave glory to God of heaven. So the remnant are those that come to believe in Tian-Do and recognize Do as their older member, and those that are not like that, that don't believe in them, but are on their own step in the piano roll of the human kingdom, in the Grayson School in the human kingdom, which is not lesser. It's just a different place because we all get whatever tests we can handle, and we don't know who's growing better than somebody else because it's by behavior and ways that the next level is judging us, not by what we comprehend and what we think and what we believe, although that's part of it, because the more we get in control of our vehicles, the more we'll recognize the truth. And the truth does come from Tian-Do, and that can't be, it can be disputed, of course, and the next level knows that it can be disputed and wants it to be able to be disputed because they want people to have the choice to not believe it. Because the people that do come to believe it, even though they might not even recognize they believe it, they just might be so interested in it that they're staying with it. And because that can be good because the influences will have us think that to believe in something that we can't prove is silly and folly and stupid, and it shows that you're becoming one of them, that believes in things unseen. Well, I am. I'm lunatic. I believed in things unseen when I was, my vehicle was growing in early life. I was afraid of the dark, and I thought there were things there in the dark that were scary. And there was a big overcoat, that black overcoat that was hanging in the closet where my bed was, and they had the hats on the top shelf. So I would wake up in the middle of the night and be just staring at that as if there was somebody actually in there and thinking, holy shit. And, I know a lot of kids go through that kind of thing. But it's not without a reason for it. And then we can outgrow it, but we can also be, have thoughts that are disturbing happen to us, and those thoughts are not us. Just so you know that. We are not these vehicles. I'm talking to the minds of the individuals that are listening to this right now. um, uh, we're the ones that choose not to do what the vehicle wants to do, when the vehicle wants to do it and how the vehicle wants to do it. So if we have a thought, then let's say the thought is of hurting somebody else, okay? And let's say even stabbing somebody with something, with a knife, okay? Let's say we have a thought like that. And we're not responsible for having that thought. The next level doesn't hold us responsible for having that thought. But what we are responsible for is entertaining that thought thereafter. So the best thing to do with a thought like that, or any kind of equivalent, is to just send it packing. Put up a blank card in our heads so that the cue card looking at it as the theater of working in the next level with these actors that are these vehicles that we're making act the way we want them to act, is to put up a cue card that has nothing on it. So it basically wipes it out. So the thought doesn't exist anymore. You don't even see the beginning of the thought. You might start to see the beginning of the thought in your head. You might start to see the beginning of the words of the thought in your head. That's what I mean by that. And cut it off. But you might not, depending on how strongly you cut it off and the strength of that thought, because there's thoughts that are stronger than other thoughts. And it's also the time to be asking the next level with all your might to now let that thought in. And then don't wait to recognize if it's gone or not, because that's like inviting it to come back. It's actually literally having that thought, whether it's gone or not, is stimulating it to happen again. So just put it out of your mind and put your mind on something else. And keep your mind on something else until you forget about that. And do that as often as you have to. And that's the way the overcoming process works. Of overcoming all the human kingdom behaviors and ways and human kingdom thoughts, because that kind of evil does exist in the world. And people that give into it, a lot of times have been entertaining thoughts like that for a long time before they actually acted out on somebody. And when they feel like they have enough justification, they're mad, they're angry at, whatever. They're angry at their parents. They're angry at their wife, their husband, their whatever it is, the children, or the government, or the church, or for all the despicable things that people do in the name of God, and in the name of country, in the name of religion, in the name of science. Even like, for instance, there's far too many vaccines that have been given to people too early in life before their immune systems are developed. It's just plain criminal at this point. And it should always be a choice. And it shouldn't be pressured choice. That's not choice, but that's what we got. We got the government doing that now. The Democrats are doing that. In New York and in California. And they've got bills all over the planet. Well, probably all over the planet, but all over the United States, trying to make their whole protocol for vaccines required. Well, you know what? Diseases are going to come, and they're not going to have vaccines for them because that's part of the way that the recycling takes place. And it also puts people to the test of recognizing, it shocks them out of what their life was before that. And by that shock, they might reach up to the next level for help. And the next level might help them. If the next level feels like, and if the next level doesn't help them with getting over the disease, they'll save that spirit for a new opportunity. Or to bring back to seed the garden with, if that's the way they do it. I'm not exactly sure they do that by stocking the garden with spirits. But it occurred to me, but Tian-Do didn't ever say anything like that, so I can't be sure about that. So the COP25 Madrid thing that just came out with the United Nations with Gutierrez saying that we're way behind schedule. It's an emergency situation now. And this is right after the EU just declared a climate emergency. What does that mean? That means they can put a lot of money into doing whatever they want to do with that money. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with the climate, but it can actually pay for them being able to go underground with energy systems, and they'll do a little bit on the surface, and they'll make a little, they'll make a green housing development, like AOC is doing, which I'm glad that's happening. I think that's great for them to have a low cost housing that can be clean and affordable, but how much are they going to do with that? They'll select one neighborhood, and that'll become, not that AOC wouldn't want to do it in many neighborhoods, but she might not have the funding to do it in a number of neighborhoods. Unless they want to keep on boosting the Green New Deal to get people on board with being willing to be taxed $10 a gallon for gas to deter people from driving. That's their idea that they have. And that the IMF bought into. Not bought into, they're part of who created the idea. I'm not saying that they don't believe all that's going to help the environment. They may very well believe it. That's what makes it a religion. A distorted, diluted religion from what the truth is. The truth is that the sun and the next level are in control of the climate. The next level is in control of the sun, too. That sun is a huge computer. It may even be a living computer with a soul driving it, or a number of souls. It might be a crew inside, for all I know. I don't know. But I know there are environments where they use robots to go in and out of because it would destroy the vehicles that they grow. So I would suspect that the sun isn't a living being. It's a it's a technology. It's technology. And there's technicians that run that technology, sending out all those frequencies and all the different ways that they go, and different, directions and intensity and the quality of each frequency and the sub-frequencies that are associated with it. And then people think that, there can't be any truth to astrology. And you hear the Christians saying that, because T was into astrology, she can't be the father. I don't know if they're saying that to their congregations. The father returned in Revelation 12:1, the woman, because she was into astrology. But I don't think she used astrology as a business, because Doe said that she required people to ask 3 times for a chart to be done before she would do the chart for them. And she wouldn't tell them that they had to ask 3 times. See, but if it was a business, then she wouldn't do that, right? I'm not saying she didn't get paid for the chart. She did. Maybe she did. But maybe that wasn't enough to want to put the work out that she wanted to put into it, because she probably wanted to do a great job. Not probably. She was going to do a good job, the best job she could do, relative to the time that she wanted to put into it. The next level, they don't overdo things. And we were taught that in the classroom. So, back to the, for a long time, I didn't, it was just tonight actually, that it dawned on me that the second woe was talking about the World Trade Center. But not just the World Trade Center, but the ramifications of it is not just the event. Hi, Slick Rick. So, and now Pelosi is over there at the Madrid conference, and she's differing with Trump. He's over there too. And this is a breaking up of the union. This is a division of the union. We're watching a split in America, literally in every way, shape, and form. So even if Trump is elected, that's not going to change what they want to do. I mean, California is as big as a lot of countries, especially in money. And that's where TNO came to. North Hollywood. You know, and Isaiah was talking about how Jerusalem was the Valley of Vision. The Valley of Vision. And when you have the San Fernando Valley with the Hollywood in it, vision. So the eyesight, with the eyes of the movies industry. And exploring new ways of thinking. Star Trek. Star Wars. Although they're making it sound like the Borg are the ones coming to destroy the Earth, and a lot of people believe that the bad space aliens are the ones that the reptilians are the ones that are coming to destroy the Earth or eat the people, or both. And yet, the truth is that they've already done that to the Earth. I'm not laughing because of making fun of anybody, but it's just so amazingly, seemingly coincidental. But there's no coincidence to it at all, because the next level planned it to look that way and to work that way. To where the opposites, like T in the first book that T was writing, she said that in 1973 that it was the inside outing and the outside inning, or upside down. right side up and outside down, inside outing. That was happening. And talking about the polar shifts, the Earth's magnetic field shifting with the poles, the pole shift, which is happening. And it's been happening in an unusual way. I think it shifted in one direction and then it went back in another direction. Or it was going in one direction and then it went into another, like I said that already, but not necessarily back, but it went into another direction. Which is typical of what we see with the next level, how the patterns are always, well, I'm going to say always, but a lot of times the patterns are changing patterns so that you don't see it as a pattern, but humans do things like patterns. And I recently saw a photograph that was taken of what was said to be some UFOs over, I think, maybe from ISS, International Space Station, or someplace near Washington, D.C., that over the sea, over the Atlantic maybe, that showed a picture of three perfect triangular shaped objects, black objects. Flying in, all in the same direction. I don't know, they might have been in a big formation. It was a wide formation with one in front, so it was like an arrow shaped. But the next level, when they show us spacecrafts, they look like that thing I put on the screen recently, the most recent one. I believe this. I'm not sure. I don't believe it. I suspect. There's degrees of things. Where is it now? Oh, it was with the two eclipses. Let's see if that screen comes across anytime soon. We'll have to reconfigure it. All right. Yeah, so the things I was talking about were, I'm going to highlight them here. That one. And that one. I'll leave it smaller. And this, whoops. And this one. Let's move that up here so we can still see that eclipse pathway dates. Okay, and then this one, that's okay the way it is, I guess. Well, nah, actually that's not. All right. Okay, oh, I see. I could even move this over more. Oh, I see. Okay, good. I just learned something about this software I didn't know. Silly me. But the object I'm talking about, the way I believe these were seen from the International Space Station on November 21st. I just which I believe is happening. There's been a number of things seen at the International Space Station. Some of them can be space aliens. Some of them can be debris, I know. They're saying that everything's pretty much debris or a lens flare or something. but they cut off the feed right after these show up. But these were actually traveling, so it was video footage. And one was small, the one to the right, that looks like a cross in the middle. Oh, darn. Keep on tinkering, don't I? I wanted Texas to be in there. Not that that's, I don't know if the most intense parts of what's going to happen are going to happen right under those areas of the pre-number. What do you call it? When the total solar eclipse happens and they cast that shadow. That's what that's depicting with that background there of the United States. But these objects were moving and they were growing to be like this. They didn't look like this in the very beginning. They just looked like dots of light. And this one, the one on the left that's bigger, was moving. They're both moving at the same speed, but grew bigger faster. And this one here never grew that big like this one here. They're not in proportion with one another. I expanded this a whole bunch. You can see by the pixelization that was expanded to get that shape better. Because it is shaped like a cross, so it's like, okay, on its side, a fallen cross. A fallen cross would be, I guess, somebody that took up their cross and then to follow in the footsteps of the next level older member at a previous civilization or whatever, and then went against the next level, went against their older members, T and O. Started talking publicly that they weren't who they were. Now, if somebody's doing that, doesn't mean that they're condemned or anything. It just means that if the next level brings them back, they'll have to be faced with the same challenge in a stronger way each time. It has to be faced with. Wow. I was just thinking on different things. I'm sorry. Slick Rick is saying in the chat room, Sawyer, how tall was Doe's vehicle? I think he was like, his vehicle was, I want to say 5'11". Well, he might have been 6 foot. I'm not sure. I think he did tell us once, but my memory is not serving me right now. That's why I'm saying. Anyway, so what's the third woe going to be? If the first woe was the crashes of spacecrafts, no, the covering up of the crashing of spacecrafts, because I think the woe has to do with the ramifications of covering it up and making it into a something that it wasn't, saying that it was a weather balloon, okay? So that the public didn't have the option to think about it as beings from space that were not human. That goes a long way to helping people get out of their illusion that they exist and that's all that exists. It's a shocker for a lot of people, but they can handle it if the next level is giving it to them. Tiendo taught that this was an experiment for the next level. And what made it an experiment was they don't know how the humans are going to respond to the things that they do. They don't predetermine those responses. I mean, they have an idea. I mean, they have lots of ideas of all the different responses that they can have, but they don't predetermine to what degree those responses will become the popular opinion or whatever, the popular ways of thinking. And so pop culture is a cult. It's but it's not the cult of cults. The cult of cults was Tiendo's subculture because they didn't even have children or spouses in their group, and they didn't do anything for money. I mean, they worked for money, had jobs, but they didn't build up a foundation or anything or with a lot of money. I mean, they left some money for the for the founding of the T-Law Foundation to preserve their materials with the Library of Congress, which I think cost money to put it there. But they didn't build places of business to where they could, the members could all, thrive off of all over the country or in one corporate location or a semi-corporate or nonprofit would be the same thing. They didn't do anything like that. They didn't have one place to lay their heads. They were not comfortable anywhere on the planet, but they were most comfortable. Well, they felt like they needed to be most in the West United States. And west, the way they described it was west of the Mississippi River. And then when I started to study scripture after I left the group, years after I left, that's when because we didn't really study scripture at all, except a little bit in the 90s, but never in the first 10 years, except for the Revelation 12:1, where Doe said that T was the woman, that T didn't come to that meeting when he told us that. And we knew that T was the one that was called the Father when they were doing the task together before. When Doe was using the vehicle named Jesus, Anyway, I got off the track again, but it's not really off the track because these things are very important to include in every live stream I do, because I never know when somebody new is going to be coming into it, and I want to show them as much of the truth as I can during these couple 2 or 3 hours. So I'm not going to listen to those thoughts that would, tell me that I'm getting off the track. I'm going to go with the flow and then keep on getting back to the subject matter, which a lot of times I get help from the chat room to do that. Yeah, so let's see, what loose ends did I leave? Well, before, when I was talking about that picture on the screen, I was saying that the next level spacecrafts that they show us look like this kind of thing, and I had to put another one on the screen to depict. Well, yeah, I'll do that since I went back to that. I'll fix this screen. And I'll stick me in there. Oh. And I'll throw me way down here. And make me smaller. Very small. Okay, so these are all the things that Scott Waring had accumulated, and maybe some other people too, from the SOHO satellite, for anybody that's new to this broadcast. And so it shows like, these are all in the sun's corona, which is the way that works is you can see it in some of the pictures, like this one here. Well, some of the pictures show like this disc, like let's say the top left one that looks like a little stingray or something on the bottom. But in the top left corner shows a little circular shape, and then you see this other part that's like which is depicting that part of the sun blocked out so that they can see what's happening behind the sun or right next to the sun in the sun's corona. Because otherwise it would all blend into the same light source. And that's how you can see it. So that's how all these pictures come to be. And of course, I think NASA stopped trying to, they would just cut the feed off when this would happen, but there were enough people that were watching the feeds that, and they would still allow those feeds to exist so people could go back and look at them. Because, what harm is there going to be, right? It's never going to become popular to think that these are space aliens or next level members. They're not space aliens. Because why would the next level work against itself by allowing the space aliens to give us signs through the sun when Jesus said that during this end time, uh, uh, end of the age, there would be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and the stars would include the comets and because they look like stars to us. In fact, it's the same terminology as lightning strewn through the space, which is what a comet looks like, and that's what Jesus said uh, he would be coming with. Well, that would be the sign, the marker, he said, actually. There'll be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars also. And so Comet Kohoutek was the first comet sign of Tiando's awakening, because that happened in 1973, and right after that they got arrested. So it became thieves in the night, even though they weren't stealing anything. Because the car rental car company got their car back. And Doe went to jail for 6 months, and so therefore was called a felon. If my voice goes out totally, then I'll have to just end the live stream, obviously. So the priests in the new religion, where science is God, and the priests and the clergy of the religion are the politicians and rich people and famous people that are um, taking that task on of getting people to believe that humans are creating climate change, which they're not. However, the positive that comes out of that is that it will help people think differently about the use of the fossil fuels. So they might be more prepared for when the grid goes down, because they may have more solar power. That reminds me, I should get some solar panels installed. And wind power and water power, by being able to tap every source we can for electricity, so that when the grid goes down for whatever reason, whether it's induced by the state or the city or the state or the country or the world, if it happens because of something that the next level does with the sun, which is completely feasible if anybody knows about the Carrington event that happened in the late or the mid 1800s, where it melted the telegraph wires. But actually, in that case, the telegraph still worked. They just didn't need the wire anymore. Because I guess so much energy was there. I think that's the carrier signal. And that we are all, as spirits and souls, we are all like packets of network information organized but genetically, but genetic mind as well, not just the vehicle genetics. That extends outside the cell. Well, I don't know that for a fact. But if it extends outside the vehicle, the spirit does, according to Doe. but that doesn't make it. Uh, it can extend out, I guess, in different. Well, I don't know if they extend out further as they grow bigger. But it seems like what happens is they get more denser, so they potentially become more visible to others, either in the spirit world, maybe, or in the human kingdom, to where certain spirits might be seen where other ones aren't. I do believe that Tiendo showed me some spirits, even though I didn't need to see them. Well, if I needed to see them, I wasn't aware that I needed to see them. But um, but I think for the sake of this task that we all have, by the way, we all have the task of disseminating Tiendo's information if we want it. And that's part of the criteria of becoming a student and an active student. An active student is a student that is active in learning the lessons that Tiendo had to offer in behaviors and ways, and in teachings, and in service to helping other people see what they were teaching. However that takes, whatever form that takes, it's going to be gradual for a lot of people, right? It's not meant to be, people clubbing people over the head with it. But then being bold about it is not inappropriate because because it might come to that, as Doe said in the 1994, one of the tapes that he made in 1994 that's posted on my live stream on my channel here. That when a student asked them if they should go stand outside in the town to advertise the meeting, holding a poster up or something. And Doe said, I think if that was the right circumstance, he said, well, you don't have to do that now. He said, but it might come to that. This was in the beginning of the 1994 meetings that we did from January 1st, 1994 to August and maybe barely into September of 1994. Doe talked about it as 9 months, so included part of September, because I left on September 14th, I think. No, I'm not sure what day it was. I joined on September 14th in 1975. Excuse me. So then who are the parishioners of the COP25 Madrid, EU, United Nations, California, Green New Deal, religion to save the humans from humans, save humans from ourselves? They're, well, I think, Threada Grunberg would be one individual, I believe, who actually kind of rose to preacher status with a simple message. The simpler the message, the easier it is for many people to follow, because they don't hear things that they're going to disagree with. So it's brilliant. I'm not saying that people groomed her for that. She was groomed, but not necessarily by her parents, even though they wrote books about, I guess, the subject, or a book at least, one. So because she grew up with that mindset, she was groomed for it. But I don't know that they were planning to make, to get her to go out and save the world. by rallying all the young people. But maybe they had that thought. But the Luciferians were certainly like that, because anything but giving glory to the creators of the planet for the reason the climate's changing. That's the Luciferian space alien fallen angel soul plan that they're always trying to do, in addition to trying to get off the planet. Because rumor has it among them that that they're going to be recycled this time, instead of being just forced to live underground, under Antarctica maybe, and under the North Pole, and who knows what other places, maybe Mount Rainier. Maybe Mount St. Helens. Because that's the other part of that Revelation chapter 9 screen. I was going to get to the three. I got to get to the three some more of these times. That's what I intended to do right from the beginning. And I'm going to do that right now. like most of prophecy I see, it's got multiple interpretations. I was going to go to Revelation 16 first, because that was the one that came to my attention recently. So let me do that. Whoops, wrong way. The great city was divided into 3 parts. Oh. Okay. And this is the same as Revelation 6, seems like, where it talks about the, let's see where you are in this. Well, I noticed that before. See, I don't prepare myself for these. I just don't seem to get it together to do it. It's very hard for me to do much with scripture anymore, like ahead of time, like to try to prepare. Unless somebody asks me a specific, or unless I see a reason to. I mean, there is a reason to. I should be doing it better. I would do a better job. I'd be faster instead of just hemming and hawing here. But here it is. So during the time that the 6th angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, this is Revelation 16:12, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Well, they already said before this that the sun was going to dry up things. So the sun was going to get hotter. I don't know if the Euphrates River is drying up, but I would suspect it is. um, But the way of the kings of the East might be prepared. I wonder what that word way actually means. Hodus. Apparently a root word. Oh, that's interesting. Way, wayside. Journey, highway. Properly or properly is one of the ways it's translated. A way, a traveled way, a road, a traveler's way, journey, traveling. Metaphorically, a course of conduct. Aha! Because remember, this book of Revelations is all about not only having literal interpretations, literal in terms of physicality. So there's actually wars that happen as part of the war in Armageddon for souls. So there's a battle for souls. That's what the war in Armageddon is, according to Doe. That's one of the things that he did talk about. But there's always like a relationship with that and the human kingdom, and even in several ways in the human kingdom. A way and manner of thinking, feeling, and deciding. Yeah, so this is basically saying that the kings of the East, the kings of the East in the United States are going throughout the world, through the United Nations, through the EU, which has a base, has the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, right? I think it's Geneva, Switzerland, with the Vatican police, actually, the Swiss Guard. These connections are amazing. The military wing of the Vatican, they're not supposed to have a military. Jesus said, those who live by the sword die by the sword. And they say, if you've got so much treasure that people want to break in to steal, put your treasure in heaven instead of in the earth, in the human kingdom. They're definitely the biggest antichrist, antichristing, anti-chrysalis, anti-metamorphosis into members of the next level, anti-anointed one working for their older member. Now, I'm not judging any one person, because for all I know, they believe in T and O. But they're so stuck in this, and they're so held up by everybody else, they figure, they're addicted to religiosity. It's a big sensual experience to think of yourself as holy and helping people, and as a ruler of people, and being able to tell people when they've done something right or wrong. The ego is huge on that. And you see that with all the leaders. But the Luciferian space alien souls, they gravitate to the individuals that can best provide influence on humans, on the most humans, and in the biggest ways. That keeps them from looking at the real next level. Because when the next level members come, they come with new terminology. And yet if they don't hear the same terminology, they think that it's from Satan. Even though Jesus said that he wasn't going to be talking about parables when he came back. And he also said that he would show us plainly of the kingdom. He would show us plainly of the Father, actually. In other words, he would show us the Father, is what he said. And that's what happened. Doe told us that T was his older member. his Father in heaven at the time when he was doing the task 2,000 years ago. Older member was their terminology. But they knew that it was his Heavenly Father. T didn't tell him that. So he showed it to us that that was the case. He only learned it on the road with T. Because at first, he didn't recognize it. The relationship that they had and the gap in their ability to size up a circumstance and make a choice that wouldn't waste a lot of time, and which T did that a lot better than Doe did it. T let Doe do things so that Doe would see that if he went along with what T said in the beginning, that wouldn't have been necessary. They were, so he was waking Doe up, even though Doe to us is our older member. So we have the same relationship with him waking us up. Everybody that hears this broadcast and or doesn't and comes to believe that T and Doe are older members from the next level are in the same. We're all in the same category. We're all students, in potentially active students, because we can't even assume we're students. Well, we can't assume that just by being students we automatically graduate. That's what the lower forces tried to do with Paul, saying that you're saved by grace. You're not saved by grace alone. Grace has to have works assigned with it. Work for it. We have to work for it, like James said in the letter that James wrote. But when I would say that to Christians when I was evangelizing, because T and Doe sent us out in 1975, and then again in 1994. When I would bring up that yes, you get grace because, in other words, that's the forgiveness of all the things that you did before that in the human kingdom that weren't next level behaviors and ways. You're forgiven of all those things while you're trying to overcome whatever that got you into those things. So that you get a fresh start. That's what baptism is. It was a fresh start. It was a washing of the sins away. The sins being the missing of the mark, the goals that somebody had in their mind that were related to the next level goals. It's not just any goal. You can't have a goal to, make $1 million and it doesn't happen, and so the next level frees you from that burden. No, you have to rise above that burden yourself. You can ask the next level for help with that, and so then they'll help you. And in any form, you can ask the next level for help. You can just, you could be ready to kill yourself because you lost your fortune, and all the ramifications of that, and yet you could say, well, if there's anybody up there, please help me with this because I don't know, I don't see a way out. And the next level could help them recognize that they have something to live for. Just, own up to it, whatever you have to do, make the adjustments, and will help you recover. And in that way, they would help them separate from the human kingdom more. Because they were looking beyond the human kingdom, beyond the earth, literally, to outer space with that request. Because T and Doe taught that when people are searching for the truth, for what's real, and that includes help, whether there's the next level that can help you, is searching for the truth, whether that's true or not. uh, that communication goes to where they are in the next level on their spacecrafts with their computer systems that can actually track people based on their light signature. It's all scientific, but not human scientific. And the science of mind as well. And that's what we're talking about building. That's what we all potentially can be building, is our minds. Because these vehicles, when they go, that's what's left. Whatever we became. So the more work we put into taking over our vehicles, the more we'll be ready the next time the next level comes, and where our souls and spirits are saved for future opportunity to take over a human vehicle and to be a to where we could recognize the formula when the next level comes and with their old members and tells everybody the formula to join with them. That formula is separating from the human kingdom. And so we end up, the end result is we die to our humanness. But that doesn't mean that happens, the order in which things happen is not up to us. I mean, we can advance things. We can grow faster than, well, it's not designed to be something that's got a static growth. Is anybody can grow faster than anybody else, but there's no competition in the next level. But they all have the same quality of wanting to do jobs for the next level, older members. But everybody in the human kingdom is at the same place. Whether you're someone like me that knows all this stuff, just knowing this stuff is one thing, okay? But it's not everything. Overcoming things that happen in the human kingdom, like divorce and children that die and dealing with disease and seeing other people hurt and mental, the ways that see the crimes against people that are committed, and dealing with all that is and sexuality and race consciousness and gender consciousness and all need to be overcome. So there is no. So that members of the next level are colorblind. Well, they don't even have vehicles that care about that at all. They don't. They would see a vehicle that was dark-skinned or dark in its appearance, and a vehicle that was light in its appearance as a vehicle that's dark in its appearance, and a vehicle that's light in its appearance. And there might be certain qualities with each of them, but those qualities aren't going to be necessarily better than one another. As the way people, were depicting, to where all those corrupt humans that were agreeing with their slave masters to sell them. Those people were buying those slaves. So that meant that there were other black people in black African American vehicles that were selling them. So it's like the race itself. No race is all good, and something can be learned from all the experiences. And that's what I was talking about. Somebody that was taken by boat and survived and was whipped and stuff and worked for a master, a white master in the South, till their hands were bloody from the cotton picking, which is a bloody picking job, as I understand it. Well, I got it from that movie that Sally Fields made, which I think was probably pretty realistic. I never picked cotton myself, but that that builds the mind. That's why there's I don't know if it's per capita or whatever it is, but there's as many brilliant minds that are in black vehicles as there are brilliant vehicles in all the others. Because brilliance isn't necessarily measured by mathematics degrees. It's not at all actually measured by that. From the next level's perspective, brilliance means how much of the human kingdom you have experience with not letting you hold you back from growing, and loving your neighbor as yourself was the lesson that was given 2,000 years ago. That's what you should do when the older member's not with you. When the older member's with you or has been with you really recently, then giving them, that older member, all your love and all your mind and all your soul and all your heart is the ultimate giving, the ultimate showing of love, demonstration of love, and is what's required to actually graduate. Now, everybody's not ready to graduate at the same time. Doesn't work that way. And so, if you can't do, all the things, then do what you can do, and work up to doing more, if that's what you want to do. That's what the classroom is now, because there's not going to be another classroom that's a legitimate classroom, because the older members aren't here anymore physically with us. Because it takes an awful lot of work to keep the students on track when they're barraged by all these thoughts and images and influences of the human kingdom. That's why they had to be taken to cloistered for 17 years in between going public. There were no new members joining, except some former members that dropped out came back sometimes during that period through unusual circumstances. Sometimes it wasn't that unusual because they were in touch with them. Windoti left and got married to a police officer in San Antonio, I think is where we were at the time. And then she came back maybe a year later. Maybe it wasn't that much. And she was among the 38. Nobody was held against their will. There was no abuses. There was really no punishment unless you did a job poorly, and then you would get taken off that job if you repeated it. Like one job was to dry the crystal goblets, and so when Tall Odie wasn't able to do that without breaking them once in a while, then he was taken off that job. And it didn't mean that he was bad, just that wasn't a job fitted for him at that point. He hadn't learned to control his vehicle enough to be graceful about it. But that didn't mean he was lesser than anybody else, and he wasn't treated poorly by anybody that I saw. I certainly didn't think of him as Tall Odie had a number of characteristics that were strange. He used to walk around talking to himself out loud. And that's fine. I mean, it's not like a bad thing. But what he was doing was he was battling influences, and that was meant to be done in the classroom silently. even if he was talking to the next level, asking for help, that was most of the time was supposed to be done privately. And no, not privately, but all the time privately, but quietly. Like Jesus taught, go in your closet and pray. And then your Father will hear you in secret and reward you in secret as well. So that other people won't see your good works and think that you're holy and uplift you for being holy. All of a sudden, then the ego starts to build. The ego of a religionist leader. So I'm getting pretty tired. So I'm gonna go back and to this one thing about these three unclean frogs in Revelation 16:13. Well, maybe I'll go to the chat room first. Hagen from across the ocean sends kind greetings. Well, it's kind greetings to you over satellite dish and whatever, not satellite dish, but whatever ways that, I guess the satellites a lot of times, right? That we end up communicating. We're going into space and back across the ocean. I know, it's phenomenal, right? To those of us that didn't grow up with this, but it's not phenomenal. I don't think of it as phenomenal anymore because it's so commonplace. But if you think about it, it was a pretty big advancement. And the next level wanted that to happen. Knew it would happen because they knew the humans would grow in that direction because of what they provided them with, the ability to do that. Anyway, so Robert Heredia is saying fascinated. Tiando's mind is fascinating, beyond belief, beyond ability to comprehend, and I encourage everybody to listen to their tapes. I provide them, I give them to you, I send them to you. It's about 4 gigabytes worth of information, compressed. Includes my book. Of course, the Heaven's Gate book is in there, and other documents that they wrote that weren't in the Heaven's Gate book. And Sawyer HG, as in Heaven's Gate, at yahoo.com. For as long as I can, I'll send people these materials, and also shared. Is where Carlin posted a whole bunch of audio tapes. And the thing with shared is you can only download them one at a time, I think, unless you pay. But they're free otherwise. And so if you have space on a computer somewhere or a disk or something, that, instead of just having a phone, then the way to go is to get the packets. Let me go back to the chat room. Robert is saying, are beings from the next level aware of other extraterrestrial races, such as the Ssani, for example? I never heard of the Ssani. So if you ever want to send me a link to that email or wherever, to where I could see what that name references. I'd like to look into it. But the overall question is yes. The next level has gardens growing that are not like the human garden, like the earth at all. In fact, they have gardens growing with humanoids like humans growing, living on them, but they can actually circulate in those areas and be seen by those humans living there, and they would call that like a next level base because they don't have hostile humans trying to shoot them and do that. Not that the next level can't protect themselves from what humans can do, but it's just a matter of vibration as well. The vibration of people killing each other is like being in the pit of hell, in a sense. The pit of a snake pit that are eating each other. Not that snakes in particular are a bad animal species. I'm not saying what if they're good or bad, but they all have their functions. But the snake, came about because it actually was cunning. That's where it came. It wasn't actually a snake that they were talking about, I don't think, in Genesis. It was very sly and tricky, cunning. Well, Luciferian space alien fallen angel soul that tricked Adam into and Eve together into because they both knew the instruction, whatever the instructions were, and they broke them. So and they took and that stimulated their sexuality. That they went with and then tried to hide it. So it became a second form of breaking of procedure because being deceitful with your older member is also not the behavior of the ways of members of the next level. Because there's no reason to be deceitful. Because the older members want us to have what we want. If we want more of their mind, then they want us to have that. And they'll provide it as long as we keep on asking for it. And asking comes in different ways. Doesn't have to have anything to do with T&O. Because even people that never hear of T&O can escape, if you want to look at it that way, or be saved so that they can live again after the recycling takes place, whether on Earth in a new civilization or on some other planet. So with the next level, we know what the plan is right from the beginning, to separate from the human kingdom. And the way we do that is by beginning to pay more and more attention to what T and Do are teaching. And when the influences come and barrage us, to say that this is a bunch of baloney and how can you believe this? And you know what this is going to mean? It means you're gonna end up losing everything in the human kingdom, and and you don't need to worry about it because you're going to lose it anyway when the vehicles die, and the vehicles don't always die in old age. so I would take a chance on a positive and do as much as you can for next level behaviors and ways, but it has to come from our inside of us. We can't really fake it. It's not like the humans teach fake it till you make it in a lot of the network marketing businesses. They want you to go out and spend your last dime on nice clothing, so that when you go into the office to try to sell your health supplements, they see somebody that's a picture of success. If you look like a hippie, they're going to say, why would I believe you telling me that these products are really good for my health? I know that from experience. But yeah, Alan Smith, just send a message. You have to have an email address that I can send it to. So send me a message that can take 2 gigabyte packages. I can send it to you twice if you can only handle 2 gigabytes. But if you can handle 4, that'd be better. I can just send them in one swoop in 2 different packets. And there's no charge for that because I'm using WeTransfer. And so and the address is sawyerhg@yahoo.com. SAWYERH as in heaven, G as in gate. I'm standing in front of Heaven's Gate. I'm not through it. sawyerhg@yahoo.com. I was criticized for saying things that on my blog that look like I was saying I was a representative from Heaven's Gate. I'm not. Well, I'm representing what the representatives represented to us. I'm trying to. And now my mind can be in there, and you'll see me, if you listen to these broadcasts much, you'll see me correct myself when I know I've said something that was out of line. That wasn't, I didn't know that for a fact. Or the only facts I know are what Tiendo gave us, are facts. I mean, I know facts that, the bottle is round, okay, if it's a round bottle, or oval, that's a fact, okay? I'm not gonna, don't play mind games with that, but I'm talking about facts of information. Now, the way you can verify that the things I'm saying are facts is by studying all the information. I just happen to be there for a lot of it, so I've got a lot of it in my computer, my brain, my mind. Not just the brain, but the mind. The mind is outside the brain. But it's stored throughout, it's emanating out of our entire body. It's a frequency. It's frequency based, let me put it that way. Like wave based. Not like, so it's like a network packet of software traveling remotely through the airwaves. And the next level has that same computer going, and it's called the Earth and its atmosphere. That's why it's like a holodeck. But it's a physical holodeck, to where you have physical experiences that continue. They last. They're just not temporary. Temporary physicality is what was taught about the holodeck on Star Trek. Tiendo said the next level was like the Star Trek crew, but without any human behavior. So no babies running around in the next level. Vehicles are grown to adults, are grown to the size of order directly. So they're all adults right away. And I'll go back to the chat room. Yeah, the next level aren't just aware of them, they create them, the other gardens. And Doe said that a number of individuals from different gardens were actually required to come to the earth, to go through, to choose whether to go through my stream is disconnected. But what I was saying there is that that the individuals were brought back from different planets where there are individuals growing so I got distracted by my phone. I'm sorry. So they had they wanted to give the opportunity of individuals that were at the same growth level approximately as the ones that became the Luciferian space alien fallen angel souls, hence space aliens from different planets originally, the chance to go to the earth and lose the physical body that they had, whatever physical body they had at the time, that the next level provided them in their equivalent service that was called elementary service by Doe that the Luciferians had in the next level. They were never members of the next level. and go through the training program to become an adult member of the next level by being subject to those fallen angels' influence to go against the next level. So that's why they arranged for one of those individuals or more of those individuals to be present in a certain geography where they start a new experiment where they took one of their own, a member of the next level, who I think at the time was like an archangel, a captain of angels, a captain in the, of a crew of next level younger members. There were older members and younger members. So anyway, so he was brought back, and then at the same time as they put a soul into the vehicle that was designed to be and named Adam, they put a soul in that vehicle. They deposited it. A soul is a container that's got a plasma kind of consistency, but it has certain programs with it of recognition of the next level. There are programs that become common sense to us. So they're giving that person, when they put a soul deposit in there, the recognition of the next level is real as part of the program with that vehicle. Well, no, it's the program that was given to the vehicle. That's part of the soul body. So it's even in the genetic code, so it has some of that in it. So everybody has a little bit of that in them, but it can be very suppressed to where we don't. And it doesn't grow. But so so Adam was given one of those deposits of a soul. Jesus talked about it as seeds, and he was already a captain of angels, or or maybe in training to be a captain of angels. I don't know for sure. um, he might have been of the equivalent of the Luciferians. In other words, working elementary tasks. But perhaps he graduated from that. I think he graduated from that into the next level. And so he was being put to the test as well to see if he could overcome a former classmate. And he failed. And so his soul remained on the earth. He didn't go back into the next level, onto a next level spacecraft after he died. His vehicle died. Well, actually, during that time, he was working. He was human, and he had to raise children and do all the human things. So it was a setup, and he ended up leaving through the vehicle that was called Enoch 7 generations later. And so that means he overcame the Luciferian influence. And that's probably what, advanced him into a new set of tasks. Well, also to continue this task. So in other words, he went through the pit in order to learn everything that he needed to learn. And every time he came back, he did that. Well, to some degree, I guess that's Moses. He had a small family, but he separated from them. I don't know if they were with him the whole time. I think Miriam was related, and Aaron was, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. For some reason, that became hazy in my head. But but then, but when he came back for the last time, he had to get involved in everything in the human kingdom that would be an equivalent of what any student could get into and get out of. So he became an opera star. In his town, he was a star. He sang at the Houston Grand Opera, a number of different, performances of Oklahoma and a number of other ones. And he used to mingle with the other people in the arts. He ate lunch with Dan Rather, who worked across the street in whatever channel that was at the time, in Texas. In Houston, I believe that was. And because he worked as a choral director at the University of St. Thomas, which was he knew Farrah Fawcett, and because he went to high school with her. And I think he went to high school in Corpus Christi. And that's where T ended up coming up. She might have went. I think she went to Corpus Christi High School also, but a different year, like 4 years earlier, 1927, as opposed to Doe was 1931 when they were born. The vehicles were born. They said that the vehicles that they took would not have survived life had they not taken them over. So they weren't stealing any vehicles from the human kingdom. They weren't stealing them anyway. They were borrowing them because the vehicles stayed behind. Unless the next level wants to make that impression of showing the vehicle go back into the next level in order to show them that it's a physical kingdom. That's why Jesus took his vehicle and went back, and that's why Elijah took his vehicle back, and that's why Enoch took his vehicle back. But Elijah had a witness, and so did Jesus, or witnesses. I think only Elisha was the only the witness of Elijah's exit. So that became then a matter of faith for the other students that were there, if they could believe what Elisha said. But by seeing it and then believing it, they were helping establish the program that would recognize it when the older members came again and they were brought back as souls back to have another experience trying to take over a human vehicle. Because even during the time of Elijah and Jesus, souls were brought back to take over vehicles to continue the schooling. Getting out of the human kingdom is not easy. It takes at least in this civilization, it took 3 trimesters for it to take place. Moses and what happened before Moses, as well, is part of that, to prep for it, because they're preparing the genetic strain as well as they're preparing the minds. I've been having digestive problems. I might have to go get some enzymes. All right, so I got to get some lessons on how to change the bit rate. All right, so the only thing I didn't, let me go back to the chat room. Hey, Jay, I've been okay. I guess I just got over a cold. That's why my voice is not such good shape, but I seem to have got that mucus out of my throat, at least for the time being. That's my vehicle's, checkup on my vehicle. And Hagen says, "Dear Sawyer, do you remember your first personal conversation with Doe? Your thoughts and feelings during that talk? Thank you very much." Yes, I do. uh, Actually, after I went to the first meeting where they spoke, um, it took about 3 days to kind of put my life in order, and it's a big, long story on what happened then. But they gave me instructions to drive to Grand Junction, Colorado, and so let's see, yeah. So when we got there, then a meeting was held the next day, and in like a little band shell that was is in the camping area, and T and O uh, had all the students that joined from the Walport meeting. There were like 34 of us. Doe said that number, I think, if I remember correctly. Um, and So they had a little meeting, and I don't remember what they said. Then, then Doe took three of us aside and said to us, "Do you have any questions?" And I didn't, and the other two individuals didn't, and said, "This is the most difficult thing a human can do, and uh, um, it's not likely that all three of you will succeed at it." Something like that. I remember thinking at the time, what, what does that mean? Does that mean, I mean, does that mean it's going to stimulate, uh, is that supposed to help me stimulate, a desire that I'm going to accomplish it? Uh, that's kind of the thought I had at the time, wondering if that was like said that way. And yeah, I think that's true. Because they didn't want people that wanted to be ordinary. They wanted people that were going to put a lot of effort out, because otherwise it wasn't worth it to them to spend time on us, each of us. And they spent a lot of time on each of us privately. And then, so that wasn't the first time that Doe spoke to me one-on-one. If I was going to say that, I'd have to go back to one time when he corrected me, because I think I was, we were sleeping in a house, and and we just got there. We had just moved there. It was a big house, and this was like 1980 or so. And and so a number of us were sleeping on the floor because we hadn't set up or bought the bunk beds yet that they bought for us to sleep in after that. And so for a number of days, I was sleeping on the floor, and apparently somebody had reported that my hands, while I was sleeping, went below my waist, into my pants, I guess, we wore PJs. And we wore underwear underneath the PJs. But we had a procedure in order to not stimulate our sexuality, to not let our hands, during sleep, to program ourselves so that our hands wouldn't go beneath our waist. And so he was actually telling me that that happened. And because he wanted me to make a better program in my head, so that, the way that they gave people to make programs during the Moses time was to repeat the same thing 7 times to yourself, or out loud or whatever you want to do it, I guess. But if you're going to do it out loud, I don't know, I guess you could do it so other people could hear it if the next level wants that to happen that way. For that particular classroom. So that was, a very brief one-on-one. There were a lot after that, but if I was going to add them up, not that that makes any difference, I'd say maybe 10 times over the course that I was. I'm not saying I was any different than any other students, and maybe I had less than other students. There were certainly other students that seemed to be better students than I was, or more advanced, or more developed, or more experienced. Maybe is the best way to say it, more experienced. Experience and overcoming is kind of like the same thing, because it's experience in the behaviors and ways and thinking of next level older members. That's what we're learning by the so-called overcoming process. What we're overcoming is our mammalian behaviors and ways. Sexuality is a mammalian behavior. The next level doesn't have sexuality. Their vehicles don't even have plumbing for excrement. Some of them can eat a little bit, but vehicles are designed for the tasks that the vehicles are going to do. And if they have to come to the earth, they have to have a vehicle that can withstand a more decaying environment. So some of those vehicles might be some of the first ones that are grown for new members, so that they can potentially do that task, because the next level also works things to where it's the ones that just graduated that are working the most with the ones that are coming up from the human kingdom, us right now. So there's crews of individuals paying attention to everybody that's paying attention to anything TNO. They're not going to tell you what to do. They're not going to tell you how to think. I mean, in a sense, they're telling you how to think by their materials, but we have to go research. We have to go read it. We have to come to where it's being talked about, or listen to the tapes that the audio tapes that Tiendo made, and those are the primary ways we're going to get closer to. Those are really the only ways we're going to get closer to the next level. But what I'm doing is just an extension of those ways. It's not another way. I mean, it is another way in the sense that the YouTube channel exists differently from the Heaven's Gate website, okay? I'm dealing with the influences that keep on trying to accuse me of building my ego over this information. That's not the case. I have a musical ego that I understand I have. I also have an ego that thinks I know something. Okay? But while I'm doing these broadcasts, neither of those egos, I can feel it. I can feel the difference. I know what the difference is. Because I'm comparing myself to my older member, and I know I'm not even that good of an active student. But yet I'm not also the judge of myself, and nobody else is either the judge of me, and nobody else is the judge of themselves either. However, that doesn't mean that that's a free ride. There's no free rides. So there's nothing wrong with thinking that we're not doing good enough. But letting that stop us from moving ahead, that would be wrong relative to becoming an active student of Tiendo, which needs to take place through a human vehicle. That's the reason why suicide's a bad idea. Because the individuals now, including myself, I think, but I could be wrong about that. I mean, I think I had the capacity to stay in the classroom long enough to be with them and leave with them. I feel like I had that capacity, but I failed that capacity. So, but a lot of individuals, I don't know if there's other people that are kind of in that equivalent circumstance to me that weren't even ever in the classroom. It's possible, I think. That there could have been people that never made it into the classroom that, or were in it for a very brief time, and are only now recognizing that this is what they want to do. And it becomes harder each time. The more you're removed from it, that's the benefit of being of service by doing live streams. It helps me renew a little bit what I know, because otherwise it can kind of morph and become like subtly unknown. Like maybe that's not the way it is really. You know, I could start to have thoughts like that. And like in the classroom, we were taught to block those thoughts, okay? Because those thoughts are going to come to us. They need to come to us in order to exercise our mind muscle, T called it. A muscle, she compared it to a muscle, as a muscle, is what builds the soul into a stronger creature, a stronger being, a being more than a creature. Because they're not creating us. They're creating, they do create us, but they aren't creating they're creating the opportunity for the graduation and the circumstances and the environment and all the needed. But we have to be the ones that take their mind into us to create so that soul can come to pass as being a new creature, be born into the next level membership. That's what Jesus was talking about when he said you have to be born again of water and then born of spirit, born of mind, born of a soul birth, born of his mind, not just any mind, because there's all kinds of, there's billions and billions of discarnates, dead humans that are, I don't know if the next level lets them all run around at the same time in the same areas. They may keep some of them, in storage somewhere until it's time to, recycle the ones that they don't feel are useful to them. It says I have an excellent connection. No, I'm not talking about my connection to Doe. I'm talking about, it said on the screen there, excellent connection. But now it's having a problem. I hope it doesn't continue with that. I better end this live stream before it gets too big, because it seems like this happens where it gets behind in saving, I think. It's taking too many resources. So let me go back to the chat room, see if I covered everything that was talked about there before I close for the night. Hagen Will says, P.S. Was your rational self always fine with the information from Tiendo? Oh, yes. Yes, it was. And that's because the next level prepared the vehicle, all the vehicles, and even people's vehicles now are being prepared to be the recipient of a returning soul to take that vehicle through their next lesson plan. and at the same and so that soul that's returning to use that new vehicle that receives the deposit of its own are all present when somebody is waking up, and for however long. If they end up, discarding it, then that soul isn't going to be as close. But that soul might not give up yet. So that soul might bring that person back to the information over and over again. And the whole human kingdom is being brought back. Well, at least the United States and Europe. Anybody that gets, the broadcasts of HBO and National Geographics and CNN and iTunes, because that's where a lot of documentaries are posted to date. Okay? And so anybody that has access to that has access to the truth. And it becomes up to them every time they see it again to say, oh, I know about that already. That was that evil cult that all those people were lunatics, and so something about a UFO and in the comet, and a lot of people will say that for sure. But some will think, you know what? I remember I was 12 years old when they left, and I remember that on TV, and I remember my folks were talking about how it was terrible, and it was just like Jonestown, and there was something different about them, I just felt like there was something different about them. That's a real response I got. I don't remember if it was 12 years old as the person told me that happened, but they just said that they knew there was something different about that cult. And they are. They're totally different from all the others in many ways. And I provide evidence of that on my blog and other places. I'm not going to extend that right now because I do want to bring this to a close. So let me go back to the chat room. Who is running Heaven's Gate website? Alan's asking. It's being run by Mark and Sarah, and they were in the classroom, Mercodi and Serafodi. And they were assigned the task because they still wanted, even though they left the classroom because Doe instructed them to leave because they didn't want to follow procedure, they still wanted to stay within, they still wanted to, years later, they still wanted to have a task for Doe. When Doe was getting ready to leave, he asked them if they wanted to help him. And so they did, and they were allowed to stay in their environment where they live in Arizona and stay in their human lives and serve by managing the website and other things. They did a lot of logistical things. All right. So I'll just say that for now. Oh, honey is wonderful when you're feeling like that. Okay, thank you. I'll use some. I'll make some tea with a little honey in it. That was something Doe did all the time too, which I rarely do that anymore. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate your hope that I feel better. I do too. Sucks being sick, right? I got over it pretty fast. Knock on wood. Don't want to assume anything. I did try to use Tiendo's meditations of visioning the light coming from Tiendo's mind's coming in from the Chief of Chiefs, coming in through the top of your head, through the pineal gland, and healing everything as it goes through your body, healing all the infirmaries. Do that meditation, take as long as you want to try to feel that happening the whole time. It can be felt in different depths of feeling. It works. Then Jay says you should do a live stream of a chapter in your book or even a preview. I wish my book was organized in such a way that I could fit in a whole chapter. But you know what? I'll consider that, I guess. But I mean, I do cover different things in prophecy that still, in my opinion, need to be covered every time I do a broadcast. And maybe you joined us too late. I did talk about a number of different prophecies in the book of Revelation and things that Jesus said as well, which just for the record, Tiendo said that we could count on being accurate to things that Jesus said in the Gospels because the Next Level worked very hard to make sure those things are accurate. But the rest of the materials are not necessarily accurate. And that includes the book of Revelations, which Doe said John didn't get everything right about. And I got some clues to that by seeing Revelation 16 as not far off as happening right now, which I kind of knew that was happening, but I think I understand it better now that it's actually in motion as we speak. And that's where it brings me back to, oh, not that. Darn, I didn't mean to do that. Brings me back to this verse here that says, verse 16, Revelation 16:13. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to battle of the great day of God Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked, and they see his shame. Now, I'm not going to go through an entire interpretation of all this, but there's a literal way that all this can be seen. And there's layers of representations as well. There's more than one literal. But there was recently somebody out on Earth that had a really good camera and took a picture of the moon just at the time when there were 3 objects going across the surface of the moon, and then another object that followed behind it, but in a different trajectory, a different location on the moon, a single object, but seemed to have maybe even went a little faster even. But the 3 objects, they come together. They came together like slowly, to almost be like one object. And I think that was like a sign in the sun and the moon and the stars, like Jesus said you would see now. And as opposed to the miracles that they're talking about in Revelation 16:14 that I just read, which is also in Revelation 13 talks about that, which will be like facsimiles of that, like even fireballs. That the Next Level probably did some fireballs at one point, and but then humans have been doing them too. There's one in California not too long ago. Even the Norway spiral, I think it's called, is to me an example of what the humans are doing, using technology that they might have got from space aliens or or maybe not. Maybe they just kind of developed it the same way they split the atom, which the space aliens could have helped them with that as well, if it was an option for that to happen that way. That's the way everything happens in the human kingdom. I mean, somebody stimulates everything. The next level stocks the planet with what all the humans can think. And not that all variations are stocked, but like the subject of nuclear power and how to split the atom and is uh, is provided as a chunk of information. But then the person has to be inclined towards that information to start to draw on how to do that. And in that way, they're learning from the next level how to do that, because they know how to do that. There's not an amount of time to measure how long ago, Earth time, that they knew how to split the atom. They've got technicians that are doing everything. Yeah, see, so my book is, I'm going to have to write an update, which might be part of another book, because I'm seeing so much more now than I saw then. But that doesn't mean that the things in the book some of them aren't of value. I think a lot of them are of value, my interpretations and translations. I'm not saying you need that information, but it's certainly handy to have that information to try to talk to people that, when the Christians come and say, this and that, and this and that means this and that, and you can say, well, you know what? This guy who said he got his information from Tiendo says that it means this and that, more than it means this and that, or different than it says this and that. And here's the reasons for it. That gives that person a chance to think, Tiendo, and well, maybe So that's the advantage of learning about what the records have documented. All right, so let me get to the next one in the chat room. Hagen says, Sawyer, thank you very much that you did this live stream even though your vehicle is ill. Save your resources. Have a good night. Thank you. Jeff says, I always felt the same way. Was 10 when they class left. Yep, I hear you. Jeff says, then something intrigued me about the class and the images of dough. Yep. Local honey is best for allergies. Okay. Kathy Southwestern, good evening, Sawyer. You're just joining us, maybe. I don't know how long you've been in the chat room. Well, good evening to you as well. And I got to bring it to a close now. I've been getting over a little cold, actually. It didn't seem like it was any worse than that. Well, good evening, Sawyer, and thanks, Sawyer. Good night from Kathy and Jeff. Yeah, so I see there's 8 people viewing at this time, and it's been a pleasure to have anybody and everybody. Yes, more, feels good. I have to say, it's not that one person isn't important to have communication with. But the more I see, it's like maybe there is 144,000 on the horizon. And this is the first 1,000 that are subscribing to this site. But of course, there could be a lot of those that never subscribe to my site. They don't need to come through me to learn anything. They can go right to the Heaven's Gate material and study it all, and maybe that's all they want to do. And I don't pick any bones, make any bones that I am necessary. But then at the same time, I don't believe that I'm of no value. This kind of service, and I think that's an example that all of us can, no matter how we might fail in controlling our vehicle, we can be of service to the next level, and that will mean something, a lot to the next level. But as much as we can change our behaviors and ways, that's also a task. It's not any less of a task. I don't think it's less of it. Well, no, I guess it is less of it. If the least we can do is to stand up for Tiendo as being from the kingdom that created the earth and all its life forms, and maintain that stand until we lose our vehicles. That's the minimum to go with them when we've been exposed to their information. Because some will go with them even if they don't hear about Tiendo, but we are on the spot more when we hear about Tiendo. It's got to be that way, because it can't be easy, because the next level doesn't need us to become members. They want us to become members. It's a joy for them. It's not like they, get to have someone else to play. I don't know. That's a stupid. I don't even know where that analogy was going, but it's their joy to. And I felt that when members came back to the classroom, I had great pleasure helping them come back up to speed with procedures and things when I was partnered with some of the individuals that came back into the classroom in 1992. So I can compare it to how you'd feel once you're a member of the next level and somebody graduates for the first time. Tiendo did say that there would be a big celebration. They also said that some will be embarrassed that they didn't conquer the things that they didn't conquer, But that embarrassment wouldn't be like, they'd be put in a corner somewhere or shamed or anything like that. That's not a positive to anybody. Because they don't do things like that. They don't act like humans do. They want to punish people, or shame them, or guilt them into doing things differently. All right, folks. So good night.